Good evening, everyone. This is Deidre with Are You a CPS Victim Like Me? This evening, we have a guest on that I have found on one of the other platforms that I watched through Darren and Tiffany CPS show. And I felt like he had a wealth of knowledge and wisdom when it comes to CPS. So I asked him if he would be so kind to join me this evening as my guest and hopefully share all of his knowledge and wisdom with anybody out there that has also been affected by CPS or is currently going through a case with CPS. And he will introduce himself. But in the meantime, we also have Tiffany with us and Darren, which is getting himself set up there, and he'll pop on his video when he's ready. But they're also here to support me and chime in whenever they have a comment or question to add as well to support what Mr. Obsidian is going to share with us. So again, I'm going to go ahead and let him take the floor and introduce himself. And go ahead, Mr. Obsidian.
You can find me at Adrian Black on Facebook. You can find me at Mr. Obsidian 8009 on YouTube. And I can also be contacted at my email, although that's pretty full at this point. That would be sardonyx036@gmail.com for more information. Today, I would like to help people out that are dealing with many people are dealing with false allegations from CPS. They're dealing with CPS coming in their homes, taking their children without warrants, without due process. Basically, today I want to get into what are your fundamental rights. Some of your fundamental rights. I want to get into those because that's very important moving forward, that you know that your rights are protected. In fact, I think that one's on my phone, but it's the right to privacy in marital matters, child rearing matters, the right to resist coercive and arbitrary interference from the state or government or federal government in the upbringing of your children, or as I like to call them, your human offspring, because the legalese bending of the system has caused it in such a way that the word child is to mean property. So if you look in some law dictionaries, you'll find children are property and considered artificial persons, what the law considers artificial. And that means they're a corporation. That means the state can come interact with them like that. Your children aren't that, okay? But on paper, that's what it is. And
real quick, so, Mr. Obsidian, Adrian, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Grace, our producer, is asking you if you could repeat your contact info, and she'll put it up in the chat or the comments for people to see. So if you don't mind just slowly speaking it one more time.
You can find me at Adrian Black on that's Facebook. And then Mr. Obsidian 8009. That would be on YouTube. It's my YouTube handle. You might have to look up hashtag D33PSTAT3. It's a big old long. I'll forward it. It's a big old long hashtag, but it's got I got all the links everybody needs for videos on this too as well.
Okay. I think that's good enough.
I'll share with that before I head out. I think in the
perfect. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is they're converting when you get the birth certificate, converts your human offspring. Okay, but that only creates an all caps legal entity for your child to eventually future interact with the government. Because governments, in as much as every government is an artificial person, it can only interact with other artificial persons and the contracts between them. And that can be surmised from the basis of what happened in Penhallow versus Jones Administrators, which is a Supreme Court case. It was, if you look at the case law, you won't find it specifically mentioned. You have to piece it together with other cases and things. But essentially what you have here is they're allocating your children to the status of property and you to the status of property. You're not property, because if you look up the word child in some legal dictionaries, you're going to find it says your human offspring, your biological property. So it being your biological property, I do believe that is subject to habeas corpus and writ of replevium, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll get into the Constitution now. So family court, it violates your First Amendment right to expressive association. You have the right to express yourself in lieu with others how you deem fit, not how the government or somebody else deems is necessary. You have the First Amendment right to expressive association. Okay, and that also extends to your immediate family, such as grandma, children, things of that nature. Okay, maybe cousins and second cousins might not quite be accounted for in that, but you do have that right to communicate with your family and to express your love for your family. And when that's stepped on, which it is, in all senses of the word in family court, so that's a violation of your expressive association already, and your child's expressive association, which is one of the only rights that children have until they're of the age of majority. We call 18, which is sui juris, which means of one's own right. That is Latin. That goes back to a legal maxim. That it goes back to Rome, things like that. So, but this gets into journalism. Okay, they take away your right to journalism because they don't allow you to record criminal activity that takes place within a court proceeding that damages the rule of law and the proceeding in general, such as perjury, for example. They don't allow you to record that perjury that is committed for evidence. They hide behind antiquated family practice privacy laws that allow them to take an air of privacy when it comes to children. Because they are right, it's not a public matter, but they are pretending to be a public officer. But they violated their oath of office already because of the expressive association. But we'll get into that. But you've got administrative law judges. Look, don't sign any of these parenting plan type things. No corporation should be telling you how to raise your human offspring.
Can I interrupt you and ask you a question real quick in relating to that? So let's say, in my case per se, in the beginning, of course, they had me sign a safety plan that I knew nothing about. Once I sign that safety plan, does that kind of strip away all of your constitutional rights because I've now signed this plan, or
it would?
Where does it go?
But you didn't know what was contained in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Unconscionable elements in a contract render it void. So void, whenever you hear the word void, okay, people in these sovereign citizen training manuals for the police have trained the police and the judges and all that, when some of them, when they hear the word void, they're to consider you a sovereign citizen. What void means is unenforceable. That's what that means.
Okay.
They don't want you to know that, obviously. So that was created by the deep state element within the CIA, FBI area of government, which is an agency, which is actually used to be an agency, is now an instrumentality, such as the Federal Reserve, things like that. These are not government, but they're owned by government, if you catch my drift. So the Federal Reserve it's basically owned and operated by private money interests, but the government, they had to give it some name, some sort of standing, so they called it the Federal Reserve. It has nothing to do with our federal government, actually, when you look at it, when you research it. Very interesting.
Okay.
But I'm getting sidetracked. Familial association. That is under your First Amendment. You have the right to associate. And let's be frank. Expressive association also includes the right to not associate. Okay, so you have the right to not associate with any agencies trying to take away your children. Okay, and that comes from a child support technique that us in the child support community found. But what I've done on this card is I've adapted it to be used for everyone, because it really should be. And what we have is the journalism gets violated because they make it a crime for you to record a court proceeding for your records, so that you can ascertain that proper adjudication and proper rule of law has been upheld. So they've taken away that right. The agencies violate the intangible right to honorable services when they dishonorably do things like, I've seen them doctor urinalysis test results. I've seen them do all sorts of things, like get medical psychiatrists involved. You had the gender affirming care, which we're going to get into that in a minute. There's some things about that people need to know. Okay, I'm not here to denigrate or degrade anyone for their choice of gender. What I am here to say is that program was being manipulated against whoever was trying to use that to have any sort of rights or whatever. Children only have the rights that are contained within their parents' boundaries until they turn 18. That's not affirming your gender that's not a right that you can observe till you're an adult. Because that has to do with a personally protected liberty interest in the right of procreation, which is protected under the First Amendment right to familial association. A lot of people don't know about this, but the Supreme Court has upheld the right of familial association going back generations. The nuclear family unit, the husband and wife, that's paramount. Okay, they deprive you of the right to honest services when they dishonor you by collecting the incentive payments off the back end of these contracts for bribery, for expedited this is in their statute, expedited process of revocation of parental rights without a hearing. Can you tell me what amendment that violates? That would be the Fifth Amendment. Okay, they're also well, not in this case, but in child support, it's they throw 666 at you, and that's the mark of the beast. So that's also a violation of your religious liberty if you choose to go that route, and it is legitimate. So the 14th Amendment, security, or no, it's the Fourth Amendment. My bad. Fourth Amendment, security of persons. The warrant clause: a warrant shall not issue but upon probable cause. Okay, probable cause is somebody had a reason to make a legal affidavit statement against you, supported by oath or affirmation. That oath or supporting affirmation that they're talking about is a police report. So you're reporting to a police officer, or you're recording an affidavit in front of a notary public. That's what it takes to issue a warrant for a private person. Now, can you tell me, did CPS go to a judge to get that warrant? Did they go to a judge and describe you, your child, the conditions of your house? Because the only way they could have done that is if you let them in your house. They don't have a warrant. If they have a warrant, it's because you either let them in or they've procured it maliciously. Okay, we're gonna move on for that one. That's the security of person. You have the right to the security of your paper person and effects. That'd be your biological property as well. You don't have to let them in the house. Nothing legally says you have to let them in the house, even if they have a police officer with them. Okay. Also, just so people know, when the police are getting involved in these CPS, that's a contract. Anybody who involves themselves in that becomes part of the contract. You become a contractor. You're not a cop anymore. you've expressly threw off your oath of office to violate somebody's rights. Yep. So that's something also that needs to be addressed.
Hold on,
Wait, can I ask you? Yeah, I know. I'm like, wait, I want to ask a question. Go ahead, Tiffany. Go first.
42 USC 192. If you read it, it clearly states that no federal agent, agency, etc., if the head of the household says you are not coming in, they have to obey that.
Yep. That's correct.
Okay, well, real quick, the question that I have, just because now that I'm thinking back, my situation ended me up into temporarily staying in a motel because they told me I had to separate from my husband because he was technically the problem. I signed a safety plan stating
That's
that I wouldn't
correct.
bring the kids, but I signed a safety plan stating I wouldn't bring the kids around my husband, their father, but we were at a hotel. How they found out we were at a hotel, I don't know. But then cops came to the hotel, forcibly made me open the door and remove my children, meaning there was no CPS people, social workers,
Threats,
caseworkers there. It was
duress,
only the
coercion,
police.
abusive legal process. Did you catch that? Those are
Yeah.
4
Okay.
crimes that just got committed in the case right there.
Wow. Wow. All righty, people
Yep.
out there listening, take all this down. Hopefully, it can prevent another child from being taken. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It violates the warrant clause because only a wet ink signature hand signed warrant from a judge is a proper warrant. I've had one of these issued on me. It was a digital warrant. I got stuffed in an armored car and dragged 3 counties away and
Oh my God.
got subjected to an unfair plea choice in my lack of knowledge of the case. Or of any of my rights whatsoever. I didn't know any of this. They stuffed me in an armored car, but now they ain't ever gonna do that again. Nope. No more armored cars for me. Violation of the separation of powers doctrine. I actually found that in the adoption foster care codes. The CPS has been left to the state codes, but you can find them in the state administrative codes. What the heck's going on? How come I can't hear now?
No one was talking. Can you hear
You're
me?
good.
King has arrived. That's what
I
happened
was
there.
like,
Darren came on.
I thought somebody was
King
talking,
arrived.
bro. But yeah, so if a violation of the separation of powers doctrine in that an executive branch function is being allowed to use a judicial branch or an executive branch agency is being allowed to use a judicial branch function, whether that be state or federal. It's also a violation of the Fifth Amendment due process when they don't listen to your documentation, when they don't allow you to speak in court, when they take your children without a warrant, which they likely do not have. If they did have, it's probably invalid. You might want to take a look at that warrant and see, is that coming from a court of valid jurisdiction or not? Okay. And then the Sixth and Seventh Amendment right to trial by jury gets deprived by statute and child support. But I'm sure they got stuff for that. Because and if you go back to the due process, expedited interstate placement of children violates due process. Okay. Expedited anything on these situations. So what I learned from a whistleblower from HHS was that speed is not the proper metric when dealing with children. You know, so we got, I'd say, Eighth Amendment cruel and unusual punishment because you're taking away somebody's children. Quite frankly, back in the day, we used to hang people for less than this. We really did. We got the Ninth Amendment right to resist unlawful arrest and to resist arbitrary intervention by the state in the privacy of the family sphere, which would be in your home. In these in these little pamphlets they hand out for divorce and all these things. They're pushing more divorces. They're pushing more. They want they're incentivizing the system that is.
That's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me. They basically said if you don't leave your husband, then you will not get your kids back. They even told my kids that. They would come to visits with me and tell me, Mom, and I'd say, yes. Have you left Dad yet? Why? Well, we're not going to come home unless you leave Dad. So much for reunification as a whole, correct?
Correct. And in fact, it used to be about reunification, but they put in new statutes. They overrid that to permanent adoption.
Yeah, but it still states that it's about reunification, and if they're getting Title IV
I know.
funds,
It's all that's all coercion.
If they put you under termination, your rights should be terminated. Then and it's underneath, and your rights they're still claiming Title IV funds. Then that's fraud, because it states clearly in all of those
coercion,
funds,
bro. That's all. That's all.
Is the goal. Period. That's the only way to get funded through Title IV.
That's all. It's all.
Reunification is on the table.
But the thing about it is that they don't do that. Instead, they expedite interplace for adoption.
Right. The thing is Title IV is written perfectly. It's written to work exactly the way it's supposed to. It's supposed to help the family. It's supposed to put monies in the places to implement services for the family. It has that
infrastructure that was originally built.
They've put these pieces of dung in place to be the commanders of these or the directors of these programs, and they're not doing what they're supposed to. They're not following.
You're right about that. You're right about that. It has that. It has that structural framework. It does. But what has been laid on top of it was done by several men. One would be Theodore Roosevelt, the other would be Bill Clinton.
Incentivized everything.
Bill Clinton.
Right. In 96 or 97.
Yeah.
There's also, and I want to say in 2019 or 20, there is a Marriage Protection Act that went into place that also falls under religion. They can't make you divorce your husband. Right? I mean, if he's whipping your ass,
that is unlawful interference in the privacy of family. Yeah. That violates the Chesney versus Sugarman.
Obsidian, doesn't that go under your right to religious practice too, right?
Yes, it does, because the right of religion is supposed to be the father or the mother chooses that. Not the state, definitely not the state, because under the First Amendment, what can Congress not do? Pass any law relating to religion. Yeah, dude.
So there it is.
It all goes full circle. And then you got the 14th Amendment Equal Protections Clause, Privileges and Immunities Clause. You've got the Separation of Powers Doctrine that it violates. It violates the Supremacy Clause. It violates a lot of things, man. This violates all your fundamental rights, which are they're given to you by God when you're birthed into this realm. And your parents, through their biological, acquiescence. But
I have a question now
that's the Constitution. That's the Constitution that it violates in a nutshell. So CPS.
Real quick, I have a question, Adrian.
Yes.
Sorry, can you hear me? Just because when I think of it, I want to ask, because I usually then will forget. What about in an instance like per se with me? My case opened up in August of 2020, and I gave birth to my youngest 2 months later in October. They literally took my youngest from the hospital when he was born because they said I had an open case. Is that even anything that makes sense as far as your rights? Meaning,
that's complete. That was a complete violation.
That's what I figured. And to fast forward, when my case was over,
and it could have been instituted by the OBGYN, just so you know.
It was what?
It could have been instituted by the OBGYN that you had, just so you know.
No, they knew that I was pregnant when they opened my case, because obviously I was 7 months pregnant. It was very much visible. But the ironic thing is that's the child that I end up losing in the end, because the foster parents wanted to adopt. Therefore, I lost my rights. But
No.
because my mother was a legal guardian of my 2 older boys and did not want to adopt, that's why I still have a chance at getting my 2 older boys back, because I'm just going to terminate the guardianship. But the youngest one, yep, they won. They got my child that wasn't even born when my case opened.
Here's the thing. Even if you have an open case with children that are already born, CPS is not supposed to get involved in your pregnancy because the child that you're carrying has nothing to do with that case.
Exactly. That's what I thought. But they tried to state it as if you have children removed, therefore they can't be in your care, then that's why your youngest now that's born can't be in your care.
That's not true.
No,
I had a
that's not
CPS
true.
case, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was fighting for my kids because of my ex-husband. Long story. Anyway,
Somebody
they
lied to her.
terminated the parental rights of my middle daughter. I was pregnant with my 4th child, and they never touched her.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me too, when you can have one child in your home, but then they take another one. But again, I feel like that's all because of the funding that they can get or whatever it is that they want out of that child, their agenda, like they always say, right?
Yep.
Meaning the foster parents that had my child, it was their first placement. They ironically couldn't have children of their own. Gee, I wonder why God didn't bless them with their own children. And they came into fostering because they wanted to adopt. That's exactly what they wanted. So they already knew their agenda from day one, even though they played me as far as they could. And then here we are at my TPR hearing, and they have now hired they had hired their own attorney, the foster parents. And outside of court, I had my mother-in-law now show up that they didn't know who she was. So she sat real close to them and overheard their conversation. And they were telling their attorney, we need to hurry this case along so that we can keep our son. And then they let my husband, and then they let my husband come and visit with all 3 of our children the day after court that day, because little did we know that they were going to finish our case, even though they said we'd be taking a break, a recess, and coming back the following day. We never did go back. We heard that day at that visit that our case then was finished, closed, and we lost our rights to our youngest. They even came out and offered us a plea deal.
Whoa. Do you say that they ruled your TPR from the bench?
They did it with us not being present because we were given permission to leave early that day because
they cannot grant you TPR from the bench. They have to take it away from the bench, and they have to grant a decision.
Well, me and my husband were not there. The foster parents were there.
Void judgment.
They can't do that. They cannot rule from the bench. They can't do that from the bench. I'll find it right now. I know that they can't do that from the bench.
No.
So they had to wait till we were present again?
No, they have to wait. They have to go over that facts of the case again. They got to go away and re-look at everything. They're not allowed to just sit there that day and make a decision.
They're actually supposed to have you there. They can't be making these decisions without.
But if her lawyer was there, then that would make her present, right?
Yeah, I think our CPS lawyer, our court-appointed lawyer.
I think that Mr. Davis actually talked about this one time, was that they're not allowed to rule from the bench on a TPR decision.
Definitely
but
not.
our court-appointed attorney was there, so you're saying then it was okay?
What I'm saying is that same day that you went to trial, you're saying that they granted the TPR that day.
Yes.
They're not allowed to do that. They can't do that.
We only went to court once, right?
Where's the mandamus?
Did we only go to court once, right? I think for the TPR hearing. I think we only went once.
But here's something I got to say. Okay.
Yeah.
The family court system that we have in this country causes these things right here.
Yeah.
Divorce, abortion, gender dysphoria, gender affirming care, where physicians supporting transgender surgery for minors and removal of parental rights if they don't change their child's gender by consent. You got parental alienation. You got a mass incarceration of parents. You got a mass amount of youth suicide and non-custodial parents committing suicide. You got school shootings. You got the silver bullet method. And it's a form of eugenics and sterilization, really. That's what I got to say on the subject matter of family court. But we'll get into CPS. I mean, they're basically they're these are your rights you got. Freedom of speech, right to travel, freedom of movement, right to securing and defending property, equal protection of the law. You got the right to vote. You got the right to trial by jury in both civil and criminal matters. You got fundamental right of being born free, equal, and independent. You got the freedom of journalism, the right to fair legal proceedings, the right to access the court, the inalienable parental rights of directing the care, custody, and raising of your human offspring. You got the right to petition government for redress. You got the right to report a crime. You have a liberty interest in procreation that is protected, which means that's protected until you're an adult, which means you can't castrate a child. Okay? Freedom against re-prosecution. You got the right to remain silent during an investigation and not self-incriminate yourself, which is a privilege, because they could put you in a star chamber where you don't have no rights. Freedom from debt, bondage, peonage, involuntary servitude, slavery. You got freedom of religion, the right to familial association, the right to not expressly associate. You got the right to bear arms, the right to form a militia, the right to own weapons for defense, the freedom of self-defense, the right to familial and religious privacy, to medical confidentiality of patients, to not contract, to choose your employment how you see fit. You got the freedom of not being forced to quarter troops in your home. You got the freedom against unlawful trespass on your property or domicile. You got the right to gather peaceably. You got the right against the right to protest, freedom from false warrants. You got the right against unlawful search and seizure and unlawful arrest, immunity to unconstitutional statutes, immunity to foreign prosecution. You got the right to truth and evidence, intangible right to honorable services, right of consensuality. If you don't consent to something, you don't have to consent to something. The only time you have to consent to something is when you've hurt someone physically in some way, shape, or form. Freedom from being physically assaulted would be the next one. You got the right against theft, the freedom of the press, the freedom of person, your personality, who you are, who you want to be. You got the freedom to do what you want to do and be who you want to be, not what somebody else tells you have to be, right? As far as you're not violating anyone else, then it's a problem. So there's a lot. You got grand jury on capital offense, double jeopardy, due process, just compensation. You got the speedy trial. You got the public trial. You got the right to record court proceedings.
Not to interrupt you, but maybe I wanted to touch on this before our show's over. We still have 27 minutes or so, but you were going to mention something about, for instance, if you get your parental rights taken and you lose your child, what necessarily can you do to not think that all the doors have been closed in your face and you'll never have a chance at getting them back?
For those who have lost hope, I ask you to read certain Supreme Court case law that I'm going to expound on right now, and that is okay. We are going to start with Washington versus Glucksberg, a Supreme Court case in which the Supreme Court ruled that there's not a fundamental secured liberty interest in physician-assisted suicide, unlike Canada. Okay. But there is a fundamentally protected liberty interest in parents' rights to direct care, custody, and the life of their basically the future of their human offspring. That's Washington versus Glucksberg. Okay. The court ruled against a physician because the child was trying to commit physician-assisted suicide and the parent didn't want it to happen. We go back. If your parental rights have been revoked by the state, I ask you to look up Santosky versus Kramer, because in that Supreme Court case, it held that even in a court proceeding where custody is contested based upon abuse or neglect, even in that proceeding, you contain constitutionally protected fundamental parental rights. They cannot be waived. They're inalienable. They cannot be waived, given away, ordered away, taken away. All that is void. It's all void. It's all a lie. And I challenge you to everyone to look into all the Supreme Court case law dealing with parents. Santosky versus Kramer, Maine versus Thibodeau, Pierce versus Society of Sisters, Parham versus JR, Smith versus Organization of Foster Families, Moore versus East Cleveland, Prince versus Massachusetts, Duchesne versus it's Duchesne versus Sugarman, my bad. Turner versus Rogers, ex parte Davis. Yeah, you know, you want to look
Can I
into
ask
all
a real
the
naive question about this, though?
Stanley versus Illinois. These Supreme Court cases will tell you not even the other parent can take away your rights from you. The only one that can remove your rights from you is clear and present danger and sexual abuse to your child. That's it.
Adrian, can I ask a naive question as far as when you refer to these case laws being like as if I was a fifth grader? What necessarily does a parent have to do when, for instance, you have case law that supports a certain thing? What necessarily would you do to say, okay, well, this case law says this, so therefore now
when you use case law, legally speaking, a judge might disregard any use of that case law if you haven't read the case.
Okay.
So you really got to go read these cases through and come to a logical conclusion. Draw a logical conclusion from what you read from the case law supporting your rights. And that's where you get it. They can't touch it. They can't touch it after that.
So if I were to go into court and say, if I go into court and say, Judge, you know, I have this case law and I have this logical conclusion of stating this happened to me, it happened to them. They got their kids back. I get mine back. Now give them back. I mean, how simple is that as far as what would a parent do?
You file a complaint and that's, 1983 civil rights lawsuit. Look up how those are done. If you need further information, I have tutorial videos for that. I'm doing a better one where I have voice on it.
Okay.
Yep.
Tiffany or Darren, do you guys have any? Tiffany or Darren, do you guys have any specific questions or comments that you want to have Adrian? I know this Rachel person keeps commenting, and I think she had asked a question earlier, but I only see it as it pops up on the TV on the side here. So I don't know if any of you guys can see her comments, and maybe, I don't know, she might have had something in the previous part. But anyways, if you guys want to touch anything with Adrian or have him addressed, go ahead.
I'll briefly touch on one thing, is that if you look at United States versus Lee, they don't get immunity. Marbury versus Madison states an unconstitutional law is void. What did we find in Washington versus Glucksberg? Parents have a fundamental means they can't take it. They can't infringe on that. So you have a right you have a right to direct the care, custody of your offspring. If they ever do determine that you don't have parental rights, it's only temporary due to Santosky versus Kramer. And Supreme Court cases of one state are applicable in all other states. Article 4, Section 1, that would be the full faith and credit clause. I do believe I might have got my article wrong, but the full faith and credit clause of the United States Constitution guarantees that. So these Supreme Court case rulings can be used anywhere.
What did Rachel say?
She said CWAP kids versus TXD FPS.
I don't know. Write it down.
I'll have to check that out.
In their custody, you must know your script.
She said, what happened to the CWAP kids is all I wanted to really know about. This last case, because they did. I don't know.
Let me check it out.
Your cat is cracking me up, Derek.
Yeah, she's my little sidekick on every show. I try to stop it, but I can't anymore. So she just hangs.
So Adrian,
when they violate all this here, they are committing treason. 5 USC 7311, 5 USC 3331, 18 USC 1918. You go Google these statutes and you look at 18 USC 242, 42 USC 1981, 1983, and 1985 Section 3. And you're going to find If you go Google these United States code, you're going to find they're doing some pretty heinous stuff here, because it's economic exploitation of children, but I was unable to find any statutes on the books on that.
So, Adrian, because not everybody's like us.
Mm-hmm.
I think he muted him. Oh, never mind.
What do you do if a judge tells you that the Constitution doesn't apply in their courtroom?
You tell them, well, I'll see you in another courtroom.
That's what she said. That's what you said, Tiffany, right?
Courtroom, and you go to a new one, and you put all you do is put his name right on there. He has to have an oath if he has authority.
So what do you do when they tell you that the Supreme Court doesn't rule their courtroom?
I'm sorry, the Supreme Court is the law of the land. And the judges in each state are bound thereby. Same as the Constitution.
So
Marbury versus Madison is what I say to that. Go look at that Supreme Court case law. It'll tell you it was the first Supreme Court case in which the Supreme Court ruled the law unconstitutional that was signed in by Congress, or that was signed by the president and voted on by Congress.
So I know that you watch Child Support Made Simple, right? Because I watched too. I like Chris. So I've been telling people, because I memorized his saying, right? I had somebody tell me that the judge told them to sit down and shut up. And I said, what did you do? He said, well, I sat down and shut up. I said, no, you should have said, the butts stop here, Mr. Lee.
That's a very good, easy way to remember Butts versus Economou and United States versus Lee. Two Supreme Court case law that, when put together, states that any officer of the states or of the federal government that violates the Constitution does not get immunity from that violation.
I knew you would know what I was talking about.
Uh-huh. I use them too.
So how do you get parents to stand up to these courts? Because the first thing they say is, oh, you're in contempt of court. I'm going to put you in jail if you don't sit down and shut up.
Okay, well, here's how you handle contempt. Will that be civil or will that be criminal? I need to know the jurisdiction so I can know the rules of procedure being applied so I can accurately represent myself or my legal person. Can you provide me with the rules?
Are you hireable, Adrian?
The amendment gives me the right to know the jurisdiction being applied, and it gives you the duty to inform me. Now, I don't think you'd be in violation of your oath of office if you upheld your duty under the Constitution and provide me with the tools that I need for an accurate defense.
Adrian, have you ever had any success stories in helping parents actually get their kids back? Because it seems like if you haven't, you should maybe be. You should be hireable.
Just remember one thing.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a legal degree, but I certainly will help educate.
Adrian, I'm going to give you the best advice. I should have had a VA. And just read between the lines, everybody. The first one to the courthouse wins.
I don't get it.
It's not anything to look into. The first one to the courthouse wins.
First one to the courthouse wins.
Yep. Get to filing.
Oh, okay.
Make your move. Be offensive before being defensive.
Right.
Yep.
I get it.
I'll put it this way. The best defense is what? A good offense.
Yep.
And I highly suggest the 42 USC 1983 civil complaint form. I highly suggest a criminal complaint form to the FBI and all the other agencies that deal with human trafficking, because that's exactly what this is.
Somebody just asked a question. Someone asked a question, how do you file a brief? We're not attorneys here, number one, but maybe Adrian could
How do you
touch on that a
file
little
brief?
bit.
It's a brief statement. It's a brief affidavit to the judge. You're just explaining to them the brief, poignant points of the main points of your case to the judge, just briefly. He doesn't. It's to get him accustomed to both sides of the case before he comes in, so he knows what's going on before he even comes in there.
I think they're referring to if you're appealing your case, maybe how do you file like your opening brief? Isn't that what it's called when you're trying to appeal? Yeah. There's a lot of steps to it. I know Mr. Davis has touched on it before. Maybe Rachel or whoever asked that question, I think it was somebody else. You can go under Mr. Davis's platform here that I'm doing the show under, and he has many short videos, and I know he's done several on
These are
the
highly
steps.
complex cases with highly complicated
You
issues.
need an attorney. You can't do it on your own. He's already said that many times.
I wouldn't say that, and there's a reason behind that. But if you can get a good civil rights attorney that goes by the old ways, that actually represents you good, keep them. There ain't many. There ain't many nowadays. That's just opinion. Again, I don't hate any attorneys. I'm not an attorney. The only reason I say that is 7 Corpus Juris Secundum, subsection 2 and 3, that states that when you get an attorney, you become a ward of the court. You can't speak. You got to work.
That's what somebody was just saying right now. Someone said, because I want to file a 42 USC 1983, but don't know how to write it.
I think, that? I got tutorials coming on that. No worries. I'm filing my own.
Dr. Death, get in contact with Adrian. He posted his info in the beginning of the show that you can watch on replay.
And you can get all these forms off uscourts.gov. Every form is on that website.
Also,
even with instructions.
Also on my Facebook group, my files tab has everything everybody ever needs. And I also have a website that has everything everybody ever needs on it.
And just so everybody knows that's watching this show, our guest this evening, Adrian, does all of this just from... What's that?
It's all educational. Oh, and one more thing.
That's what
I don't make any money off of any of this.
That's what I was trying to say. I was trying to give you a little, I don't know, boost of credit, because from at least my end, he does all of this just out of the kindness of his heart, because he was affected with his own personal kind of child support, but CPS is, hand in hand. But all of this knowledge that he gives out on all of his various platforms, it's not like he's making money off of. And he's doing this just, not getting paid and wants to help people.
I've watched the system damage families like this for years as I was growing up. I didn't really say much about it, but I knew.
I have
and
even
it was just
gone
natural
far
gravitation.
as to tell people when CPS shows up at their door to already have the 1983 complaint form, and when they show up, right, say whose name goes right here, yours, your supervisor, whose name goes here.
And that I got color of law form. I got citizen version and non-citizen version.
I got 400
if
copies.
They play you on some, you're a United States citizen. Just reissue it with the word citizen removed.
Darren, you got anything to say? You've been so quiet.
Mic on. Turn your mic on.
CWAP is children without placement.
Okay.
That's what that lady was talking about. CWAP. Children without placement.
Wow.
So I'm just reading about that stuff.
But we have about 10 minutes left. So whatever you guys want
to learned yesterday before the powers to be kicked our channel off.
Isn't that crazy?
That SSA 1101D actually states that no one is to remove a child from their home.
Nothing in this act shall be construed as authorizing any federal official, agent, or representative in carrying out any of the provisions of this act to take charge of any child over the objection of either of the parents of such child or the person standing in loco parentis to such child.
Look at that.
Hey, quick question. What is it that YouTube does when they turn off hold on, I got the TV playing. Like when they stripped your show last night. What is it that happens that alerts people that do that?
There's no
They've
show.
been monitoring us because they don't like what we're talking about. They're
I know, but do you think it's like the YouTube people? Like who is it that like
it's probably because I'm here. It's probably because I don't know though, but that's just because I've been being silenced for quite some time. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing on your own personal end too. Probably have. They've been doing that over at Facebook.
No idea.
If they don't like what you say, they're going to come shut you up. It's quite ridiculous. I actually did like 3 videos on that because they wouldn't leave me alone.
Well, it started with Darren's internet. My computer would not come up yesterday, and I got tired of messing with it.
Deep
Then
state.
when we did the show, right? When we did the show, Darren's computer froze. I couldn't get in my email. It was terrible.
and the guest actually got kicked off first, right? Yeah. That's crazy.
That was like me the other day when I was getting ready to come on the show for the Trump video.
Yeah.
My phone crashed. The whole thing shut right off right before I was supposed to come on. So I was like scrambling to turn it back on and everything. I'm like, geez, what the heck?
I'm surprised your Trump video actually went through all the way and they didn't cut you guys off. By the way, have you heard anything back?
Oh, they did. They blocked me. They blocked me from sharing it.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I shared it everywhere.
Darren, have you heard anything yet from that or no?
No, I have not. Nope, I have not.
Well, we have about 7 minutes left. Is there anything else you want Adrian to talk about or you want to talk about?
Well, Adrian's hooked up with our community now. So Tiff and the Punisher is Monday through Thursday, 7 Eastern time to 7:15 to 8:15.
How about you guys just do your Wednesday show with me?
We'll
talk
to
about
be continued. To be continued.
This is my bedtime. Are you kidding me? I get up at 4 in the morning.
Oh, man.
Man, I was up all night arguing with Elon Musk hecklers.
Oh, my God. But Adrian is coming on Sunday. What time is your show?
That'd be it's 7
at 6 o'clock, right? 6
7 to 9.
7 to 9.
7 to 9. And then that's Eastern Standard. If you're in the mid range of the country, that's 6 to 8.
Where do you do your show on? YouTube or what platform?
I'm with these guys. I'm gonna be with these guys this time around.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Deidre, just get used to it. We are it now.
If you go to Adrian's channel, like and share.
Like we're absorbing everyone. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. This is what my goal has been.
Good, man. We need more people.
What is it? Gunning for CPS? Gunning for CPS?
Yep. We have CPS Victims Hunting Justice. We have
Bringing Brenda Back. You have
Brenda Back. Yeah, we got
Paige. What's the one with Paige?
Don't let me forget, Darren. I got that intro video music for you for whatever you got going for my show on the Sunday.
Darren, tell everybody what the shows are so that they can like and subscribe to our channel too. Everybody's channel.
So the channel is so you go to youtube.com/@abolishcps. It's called CPS Breaking News. That's the channel. And we have shows basically 7 days a week we start It's all day long. They go all day long because they're different times, different places. We also have Sam Mosley starting this week. She's starting healing with Sam, so she'll be starting this week. I think she's Mondays and Wednesdays. We have Obsidian. There's another. Amy Wombley starts her shows this week too. She'll be starting. So I mean, we have like 10 or 11 shows now, different shows that are on during the day. So any day that you go onto that channel, we're starting to be able to be the point that you're going to find someone doing a live. So,
and again, I do this show. I do this show under an attorney, Mr. Vincent W. Davis. This is how I also met Darren originally, that used to do a show with me.
You got a good attorney, keep them. Keep them.
No, this is, I feel like, the only attorney I've ever actually felt like that gets children home and really cares from his heart.
Some of them are still good. Some of them out there are still good, and they're still fighting.
But that's where a lot of people have found this show. Therefore, the reason why Darren was listing all of his is because, he obviously broke off on his own and now doing all these. But again, anybody that has an affiliation with CPS is going to need the support from anywhere and everywhere. So that's the main reason why I still do this show. But again, going forward, this show's on every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And if anybody wants to be a guest like Adrian today, they can just contact the number listed on the bottom there, that 888 number. And our producer, Grace, will get you set up. And then you can come on and share your story, how you have been affected by CPS. But the show's pretty.
Have a promo too or something going for some visits or like some sort of Bob
Pace is the other host that does his show, and he advertises that if you come on the show and be a guest, that I believe you get a 15-minute or 30-minute consultation with Mr. Davis. But I'm not sure if I'm allowed to state that with my show here, so I'm not going to really speak about that. But there's another host that does a show every day, twice a day, 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to be a guest on his show, do the same thing, call the number, and the producer will get you set up, and then you can see about what kind of promotion goes with him. But it's the same attorney, so same thing, as long as you come on and participate, you can get some services for free, maybe from him, and see where you stand with your case and where you're at. But other than that, anybody that's commented or asked questions, if you weren't addressed, feel free to reach out to any one of us. And Adrian posted his contact info in the beginning of the show, so just rewatch the show and you can get it there. But other than that, like Darren likes to do on his show, does anybody have any last words before we get out of here? If not, then we can go ahead and what's that? Go get your kids back. Yes, please. The hope is out there with all of us. Darren, Tiffany, you want to say anything?
Parental rights are inalienable.
There you go.
Yeah, I got my last word for it. Check out Social Security Act 1101, whatever it is, Section D.
1101D.
Right?
Oh, Darren, promote your book. Darren has a book.
Yeah, and my book, CPS Victims Hunting Justice. Stay Calm, CPS is coming. It's on Amazon.
And Tiffany and Darren are also in the process of working on another book, I think. So hopefully we'll hear more about that soon. Okay, Grace, I think we're all finished here. Everyone have a good night. And
Grace, music.
We don't have music. It's not special like your show.
That's all right.
The love is there. Okay, Grace. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Tiffany, Darren, and Adrian. Good night.
See you guys later.
Good night.